What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Vanguard. I have a really super special episode for you guys today. Returning friend to the show, Olayemi Olurin. Super excited to catch up a little bit with her. But yeah, how you doing, Zach? Just getting back into town from Louisville over the weekend.
Yeah, it was tight. Just getting back from the South over here. Sorry, I blew out Gavin's eardrums really quickly, I think. Anyway, yeah, I think we just got back from Louisville the other day. It was a great time. Never been to Kentucky. I also stopped in Nashville. Gavin and I were talking about it. Nashville gets a lot of love on a national stage. Everybody's like, oh, Nashville. It kind of gave me like Vegas energy. Like there was a fucking bachelorette party on every corner. I was there like Friday at 1:00 in the afternoon, and everybody's just like fucking pissed drunk, which I don't really care about, but like they were all like, woo! Like, cowboy and cowgirl hats and all that kind of shit. And I was like, whoa, I need to go back to Kentucky. So I just stayed in Nashville for like literally 4 hours, got back in my car and drove back to Louisville. It was like, yeah, I can do some bourbon drinking in quiet Kentucky for the rest of the time. But yeah, it was a great little trip out here. Hopefully my audio is good to go. But yeah, super excited to talk to Olayemi today about cash bail reform, something that we're all super passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to check in with Olayemi, hear a little bit about this new article she's written about Illinois' plan to end cash bail, which some are calling a purge law. So excited to, break up some of the rumors about that, or some of the talking points that are out there. Also, quick shout out to you, Kelly. Thanks for the $9.99. Watching Liz's state funeral was bewildering AF. Don't ever want to hear again about how we're any better than authoritarians and dictatorships. Well, that's also something I'm excited to ask our guest about, because Olayemi had some very spicy tweets about the death of the queen that I personally thought were pretty hilarious. So really excited to get into that too. But thank you so much, Kelly, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Kelly. It's really like, as we like constantly fearmonger about North Korea and like how they revere this guy and like he's like a deity or whatever to them. I'm like, what the fuck do you call this now? I mean, I'm pretty sure King Charles has somebody he pays to wipe his ass now at some point. I don't fucking know. Yeah, we're crazy too. So shout out to you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Hey, we're not the ones with a queen and a king. That's the UK.
True. Yeah, those fuckers, those dirty fuckers we had a war with.
Anyway, with all that said, thank you guys so much all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button. Before we introduce our special guest for today, Olayemi Olurin, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, thank y'all for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming on. Always great to chat with you. You published a piece, I believe, this morning. On entitled Illinois' plan to end cash bail is not a quote unquote purge law. It will, however, stop the criminalization of poverty. And for an issue that, for people who are, level-headed and informed about it, is something that's such like a no-brainer, if you will. Right. It's mired in such insane controversy. So could you just kind of spell out for people the intentions behind this cash bail reform, how cash bail originated, why it's a classist, element of our already majorly fucked justice system, and on top of all of that, how it doesn't actually keep people safer, it just keeps poor people in jail?
I got you. There's a lot to debunk around when it comes to this. So people have this idea. Oh, look at that. Okay, hi Isaac. People have this idea that cash bail has something to do with public safety, and it just does not. The bail system at all doesn't take that into consideration. The actual legal purpose for bail is to ensure that someone returns to court. Period. That's all there is to it. And regardless now, there's no safety component. If bail is set on you, cash bail is set. If you got the money, you get out. If you don't get the money, you go in. And what happens is the overwhelming majority of people in the criminal system in the first place are poor people. Most people in the system are represented by public defenders like myself because they can't afford legal representation. So they certainly don't have bail money, which is a fact the court knows when they set the bail. So what happens is people go in on bail on cases where they probably would have never gotten criminal time in the first place. It's never going to get to a trial. It wouldn't be able to be resolved. They don't have the evidence or any of that. But what happens is because they're in on bail, you want to get out. You want to get on jail. So now the prosecutors have the option to say, okay, well, take this conviction and we'll do time served, plea to this. And what happens is people end up with criminal convictions and long rap sheets because of this bail system. And most times, and they sit in jail for years on end before they ever get a trial. And you know what ultimately happens? They go, okay, time served. They let the people out then, and people are dying. People are being killed. People are being abused. People are being sexually assaulted. People are committing suicide. And all of this is happening in jails all around the country. But Cook County is one of the worst. I always talk about Rikers, but Cook County is right up there. They've had 60 deaths from 2017 to now. Their average person sitting in Cook County, which is just a pretrial detention center, is 4 years. That's an insane amount of time to be waiting because you've been accused of a crime just to get your trial. So what the Pretrial Fairness Act actually does, and not this purge law they've tried to brand it as, what it does is it eliminates cash bail, but it does not mean that people cannot be detained pre-trial. That's not what it means. There are a series of offenses, misdemeanors, traffic offenses, low infractions, these things. They would not be able to detain you on. But wherever there's, actual violent crime, and I want to make sure I say this because I hate the way violent crime is used. Violent crime is a legal term of art. It's a legal definition. It does not actually mean that anyone was harmed. It does not mean that there was any violence. So if they say you commit a robbery, they'll call it a violent crime. Even if nobody was there, you didn't use any violence towards anybody, no one was harmed, it will be marked as a violent crime. But actual crimes with violence involved, felonies, most felonies, the prosecutor has the option to do this. They have 3 to 4 different options. They can go to the judge and they can present some kind of evidence, some kind of argument as to why that you're a danger to the public, which creates a public safety component that does not exist under cash bail. The cash bail system don't care nothing about who's dangerous, who's not. It cares about how much money you got. But now they say to the court, actually, we have some evidence or reason to believe that this person is a danger to the public. And so then they're detained pre-trial. And there's no option where your money can get you out even at the expense of the public. Or if they show evidence that this person is actually going to be a flight risk to prosecution, then they can be detained pre-trial. Or if it's just most of these felonies, or the fourth and important part is if you are released pre-trial and you commit some violation that violates the terms of your release, you committed another crime, you reoffend, then you will be rearrested and detained pre-trial. And an important fact I want to say this is a modest bail reform. As much as people they love to paint it out as though this is some leftist radical's dream. I wish they were out here legislating my dreams. I wish that was the case, but that is not what this is. This is in fact a modest bail reform that actually started in 2014 in New Jersey. Republican Governor Chris Christie actually completely eliminated the cash bail system. So this has happened in areas under Republicans before. The only difference is you don't see an organized attempt, an organized campaign against it when the Republicans do it quietly. Only now, when you see it in places like Chicago, like we saw in New York City, they start these campaigns, fear mongering to people that, police can't arrest people. Oh, they're not going to be able to do this. The streets are going to be filled with crime. 2 important points. The law does not go into effect till January 2023, meaning there is still cash bail in Illinois. Nothing has been implemented. So law enforcement agencies, Chicago PD, can arrest anybody they want, just like they will be able to arrest anybody they want after this. This law has nothing to do with arrest and who will be prosecuted at all. It simply only applies to bail. But I want to point that out because it's important to recognize these fear-mongering tactics. All these articles that are already coming out where they're choosing sensationalized crime and saying, we couldn't do anything because of this law that has yet to go into effect that has nothing to do with this. So an important point to recognize is that when it comes to this, and just that this is necessary. This is something that has to happen, and it took a long time for it to get here, and law enforcement was involved. The language that's being used in the bill that encourages police officers not to make silly arrests, nonsensical arrests, write tickets, that was put in by law enforcement agencies. So they were very much so involved every step of the way in getting this modest bail reform passed. It's only now this concerted campaign that's being very deliberately placed in places that I go for my gossip and my mess, and I should never be going for legal consultation, like the Shade Room, Baller Alert, meme pages, everywhere that they think we Black people are chilling. They have started this purge law mess so that we are galvanized to not support something that actually benefits us. But this is a good thing. People have been dying. In the last 2 years, Cook County has had one of the worst pandemic situations behind bars. All kinds of people have died, and it is extreme. It's extreme. And so this will help lower that population. And it really just has nothing to do with crime. And importantly, New York City already has got bail reform at the top of 2020. And statistics and studies have already showed that the numbers in terms of rearrest were completely unaffected and unchanged based on bail reform. And that is what it has been in every other place and jurisdiction in the country that has adopted this same modest cash bail reform. So that's my piece.
Yeah. I was just going to add one thing. I read one of those pieces that I imagine you were alluding to. This one's from the New York Post, which obviously everybody knows is a right-wing complete rag sheet, but it had the exact same, purge imagery that you were referring to. Illinois, no cash bail law will turn the state into the purge. But then if you go down and if you just read it into the third paragraph, right, it's so fun. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. if you read right down here, the unbelievable will soon happen in my home state of Illinois, right? And then it says that they're going to enact this Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act, will completely eliminate cash bail for the majority of defendants charged with criminal acts. Judges will decide whether or not to release defendants on a case-by-case basis based on flight risk. And if they feel a person poses a threat to a community or is a flight risk, seeking as like, it's just a completely rational.
It's not, it's absurd. You know what is interesting about media just in general? I can literally have the statistics, the evidence, the facts, the resources, and they will get nitpicky about a word of your opinion, but they can literally just publish complete baseless lies that make no sense. And they have all of the avenues free to do it. The Purge, I'm like, did we watch The Purge? The Purge is a movie where we say all crime is legal for 24 hours, go run amok, murk people, take them out the game, steal, break up the place. How? Like, how did they even get away with this kind of wild imagery? That's one. Two, that's what they're describing. That's how the arraignment process is supposed to be. You're supposed to, as an individual person, you are supposed to have rights. You're supposed to get in front of the judge, and the judge is supposed to afford those rights to you and assess what you've been accused of and what's been presented. That's what that article says. It says, starting January 1st, 2023, judges will attempt to acknowledge people's rights in court and not just use their money situation against them. What they're saying is they recognize that this cash bail system that we have just weaponized against poor people. That's all it is, because we know that we have a criminal system. The vast majority of things never go to trial. Never go to trial. There are people, you could represent thousands of people and you may never go to trial. That's what happens. Things are resolved with pleas, and most things are even like thrown out violations. So what the criminal system does is it finds all these different things throughout the process where they can punish you. That's why they make you come to court back every month, even though nothing will happen. You have to sit in court all day, every day. You have all these different regulations because ultimately they don't have what they need in terms of what the system is. What are your rights? If you were afforded a trial, they don't have what they need to actually punish you that way. So they punish you this way. So if you have a system in place that allows the police to arrest whoever they want, they can arrest and whatever they want. People can make whatever accusations they want, and you're arrested and you're charged with something. And then the answer to that is, we'll see what happens at trial. It gives a lot of latitude for the system to mistreat you in between. So if you're allowed to put a dollar sign on it and say, hey, I don't got nothing for you. You're presumed innocent, but you ain't got no money. So go sit in jail and figure it out. You want to get out? You want to get out? Take this charge. So that's how it works. Or wait and spend way more time in jail waiting on a trial. I've seen people sit in jail for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, have a trial, and you're found innocent, and now you're out. And then where's the compensation for that? What happens to the way your life was impacted by that? Most times, more times than not, the minute people are arrested, they lose their jobs. They lose their jobs just because they were arrested. Even if this is going to be dropped out, they lose their apartments. There's an order of protection. Their lives are completely like torn upside down just based on the arrest. So having this cash bail system that says, hey, I know you're broke. I know you're broke because I just assigned your public defender because I know you're broke. But run me this money or jail. And that's what we currently have. And they know that because all that says, they couldn't even alarm you appropriately. They're saying, oh yeah, on a case by case basis, they'll decide whether or not they're a danger, they're an actual threat to public safety, as opposed to just whether or not they're broke. Because that's what the system is now.
Right.
You have money or you don't.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. By the way, shout out to our comrade Socialist MMA in the chat. Olayemi is a great guest. Absolutely. So thank you, Nick, for jumping into our chat today. Also, speaking of comrades in the chat, we got a question from Observer. Thank you for the $5, Observer. Wondering about, won't getting rid of cash bail just lead to judges locking up more people based on their own subjective judgments?
So let me answer that. So I actually, in terms of the general law, getting rid of cash bail system and allowing people to be detained pretrial based on arguments about dangerousness or felonies or something like, I do believe personally that will lead to people being, arrested. Not more people being detained pretrial, obviously not more, because in the current system, all the people that they would want to detain pretrial because they actually have some reason to believe that they're a danger to safety. That in addition to, we don't like you, you're charged with any of these things just for the sole purpose that we can set cash bail, we will. So it won't lead to more people being arrested. More people being detained pretrial. But I do think it impacts people maybe more negatively in the sense that in a world where you could have the money or you could find the money or something, you could get out, right? You could get out. Whereas a world where you can't, there's no cash bail system at all, and they've determined that you're dangerous and you're going to be detained pre-trial, then you are left with less options there. So I do think that. I think there are a few people, it's not going to be the majority of people, but I do think there are a few people that would be negatively impacted by that system, but not that it will lead to more people being detained. But I do think that is something to consider. And I think oftentimes you see, even in New York City, where we made it so certain crimes were no longer bail eligible. We haven't gotten rid of cash bail, but you can't set cash bail on certain crimes. I think that has led to, in cases where judges can set bail, they're like, oh, they're excited to set some cap bail, so they can set some cash bail, so they set it higher. And I think you see, so I think there are limitations with it. I think that's right to be mindful of, but not as far as it'll be more people.
How would you?
I'm all for the questions. Ask me more.
Oh, I was just going to ask, how would you maybe alleviate that, or in your mind, obviously there's going to be whole stuff there, less of a classist incentive, but obviously you got a racist judge and a black kid up there, who's going to get worse than
Yeah, I think what's going to happen. I think how it has to be assessed once these laws. We pass a lot of good laws can be passed, a lot of bad laws can be passed, a lot of anything. But what it really comes down to is what they do with it in application. And I think when you see January 2023, you're going to see from public defenders and the people in court saying what actually happens. And I think it's going to come down to what factors are they requiring the prosecutors have to present to the judges as grounds to keep them detained. Like in the sense that, if I present to you an idea that this person is a danger to public safety, what are they presenting? So I think we're going to have to see whether or not judges are having a low standard or no standard at all, whether or not they're behaving just, arbitrarily, or whether or not they establish some level of this is what you need to present, this is what you need to present. So I think it's going to require us to look on January, once this law is implemented, we'll have to respond and pay a lot of attention to how it's actually being applied. And then what unfortunately happens is anytime we do these laws, in the same way I have to defend it now before it's even there, because they'll try to roll it back. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. They're not going to stop. Like, the law is going to be implemented and they're going to let it go. They're going to continue to see this campaign amp up to suggest that, we should get rid of it. And the same flip side of that, you're going to see the proponents of the law showing the way they're not, how they're implementing it, and if there are problems. So I think that is something for us. They're going to have to watch.
Interesting. Well, I wanted to just go through your article a little bit and read a passage of it, because it's super educational, super informative to a lot of people that might not be 100% up to speed on all this stuff. And I wanted to specifically frame this and get your response to some talking points that have been surfacing lately in left internet discourse. So here you're in your article, you write, most people caught up in the criminal legal system live below the poverty line. The cash bail system, which was never about public safety and was designed to make sure people show up for trial, instead criminalizes poverty and aids mass incarceration, which is why it's become a recent target of prison reform. Prosecutors and judges use pretrial incarceration as leverage to coerce people into taking plea deals in cases where prosecutors likely can't present compelling evidence at trial to get a conviction. The effects of pre-trial detention are long-lasting and life-altering. And obviously, I'm no expert in criminal justice and law like you are, Olayemi, but that's always seemed pretty obvious to me, pretty common sense, the kind of criminalization of the poor and how that, factors into our incredibly disproportionate justice system, all that stuff. But recently I've seen some talking points on left Twitter, on left YouTube of people, we don't have to name any names. I don't want to drag you into any drama with other commentators or anything like that. But, there's been these talking points out here that, like, the left is actually, they're not tough on crime enough, this kind of language about how we need to get rid of cash bail and stuff like that. Oh, this is actually giving us a pro-crime look, and to your average voting person or just your average normie, they don't like this because they're so terrified of this violent crime in their area that they want the left, to take on a more tough on crime approach, or they're just going to vote for right wingers. So what would your response be to that?
Well, it's not true. Well, let me there's a lot to be said. First of all, this myth that the average person in America is a person on the right or somebody looking to be galvanized to that or to the middle is not the case. If anything, first of all, when you look at, if you just look at even just voter turnout or, you know, the popular vote in numbers, even in the losses, even in the Hillarys, the overwhelming numbers still vote on this side of the aisle. So that's first of all. A lot of people are not involved in politics or are completely dissuaded and disenchanted precisely because we are not progressive enough. So I think that's untrue. A lot of people just don't feel like their needs are met and that either side represents or is aware of what the average person in this country goes through and what we need. So that's that. And as far as they're talking about, listen, I don't know about them, and also like a lot of these white leftists that talk, I really can't speak for them, but let me say this. I'm a Black person. The average Black person in this country is very familiar with what it means to be criminalized and how that narrative goes around us. It might not be normal to white communities and these people that are constantly talking about crime and fear mongering, left or right. They're always doing that, but they're not the ones that live in these communities that are over policed. Despite the fact that they seem so concerned about crime, they are not the people that are most often victims of crime. The same people that you are vilifying as defendants, you're calling criminalized criminals, you're criminalizing are the exact same people that are the victims and the people experiencing this crime. And these people are pointing out to you repeatedly how their communities are under-resourced, how police pose a danger to them, and how mass incarceration has done nothing to make us safer. That's first and foremost. And importantly, we need to recognize that it has nothing to do with public safety, right? This is a country that we had our first police, the first prisons were like 1832, 18 something around there. And we had if you look at even just like a California, you had 9 prisons, but in the space of 100-year time frame. And then you get people like Reagan and suddenly we have a burst, prisons. The next thing you know, you go from having maybe 100,000, 200,000 people in the entire country in prison to now 2 million people behind bars. And yet has crime changed? Does any of this have anything to do with anything, or just continually creating generations of same poverty and the same issues? So as far as that, I would say they're incorrect. Second, I think it's important when it comes to how we answer this question to look at one's place in a movement. I think if you see yourself as a commentator or you're someone that's very invested in Democrats versus Republicans, or you look at politics as, you know, a game of chess and stuff like that, and you're interested in this is how this polls and yada, 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 then you're going to feel like whatever. I don't engage myself in that. That's not my role. And I understand that I am a commentator. I know what they know. I'm in the same role. I'm aware of the political landscape and Democrats versus Republicans, but I only care about Democrats and Republicans and politicians and their little game of who's in power insofar as it converges with the interests of marginalized people. Outside of that, I don't care. I recognize that we have a status quo. We've all been raised. I expect abolition and all of that to sound wild to anybody the first time you hear it. You're trained to think of, you know, the prison, police, and all of this, like water and air and something that you need. Every society has that. So I expect that kind of alarm. But for me, it's the more you get information, in the same way we were indoctrinated and taught that, we're fed that in everything. We're fed it in media. We're fed it in our TV shows. We're just fed it in all things. You can feed people the other way. So my role, the way I see it, is I'm here just to keep educating people and get us further along. Abolition didn't just start the other day. I think what's important, a lot of these commentators talk about, because to them it's new. That's where it started. Defund the police, abolition. They think it started in 2020, and that's not the case. The prison abolition movement dates back decades. It's rooted in the abolition of slavery, you know. And so if you look at the progress we've made thus far, the fact that this is even something we're regularly discussing, we're galvanizing support for it. That's a positive step in the right direction. So yes, absolutely. If you poll people, the average person in America going to be against? No. Okay. Have you ever heard of a progressive initiative that immediately had majority support? That's the status quo doesn't become the status quo because it's not, you know, being defended and ingrained and supported. So to them, I really kind of just say, so what? That's kind of how I feel. And I feel like it's very irresponsible on a lot of their parts that they continue to waste their breath fighting against their own team, regardless of whatever whether or not they don't like abolition, or they don't think it's effective, or they don't think it's smart, or they don't understand it, mostly is that they're simply ill-informed. But regardless of their position, you know what the intention, you know what the mindset behind it is. The people on your side of the team are the reason they're saying abolish the criminal system is because they recognize, and you cannot dispute this, is that this criminal system produces mass suffering. It is not quite frankly, it's not doing anything about public safety. But more importantly, you know it's racist. You know that the majority of the people in the system are poor, and you're aware of the amount of mass injustice that it produced. So if you're aware that our actual bottom line is to change that, is to stop that, you should not be wasting your breath speaking against us. What you could do is speak about all the numerous stupid shit that's happening on the right that you never hear the right turn around and not support their own. So that's my answer, is so what to them, and I find it irresponsible.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Such a great point, Olayemi. And also, like, if we're going to talk about normies and the way normal people think about politics and stuff, in their opinion, unfortunately, the Democratic Party is more the representative of the left side of the spectrum. Again,
Yeah.
I don't think that the Democrats are, in any way, shape, or form actually on the left. But unfortunately, because of just reductionist framing and the two-party politics system, yeah, most people think of Democrats left, Republicans right. And who's the head of the freaking Democratic Party right now? Freaking Joe Biden, one of the architects of mass incarceration.
Right.
So to then turn around and say, well, these radical left wing activists, abolitionists and defund the police people that represent a fraction of society, let alone of people on the so-called left spectrum in this country. I just think it's crazy to overfixate on that and the fact that certain policy positions haven't quite become 100% popularized yet, because like you said, it takes a while for the status quo to become the status quo, all that stuff. But it's like, isn't it worth it just to try to shift the Overton window away from what we currently have as such a
use it to get to the middle, so there's some kind of middle ground, but instead they just use it to gut support for our entire, just make us look ununified, and it doesn't really serve us anything. And I also am like, if it's this if it's this ineffective, right? Most times I hear defunding the police more from the people on the quote unquote left or the liberals bitching and complaining about it than I hear about it from the actual people that are, you know what I mean? Like, what is your beef? They seem more angry than anything. And it really reminds me of this major point. People have to remember that the actors in the system, whether it be the politicians themselves or the media representatives or whoever, they are individuals with their own things that they believe and their own things that they want to see and their own things that they're irritated about. And they have a tendency to make it seem like it's a much larger thing. What it really boils down to is a lot of these politicians and commentators and who we're hearing from, they're just not that. They don't support it. They don't like it. They're not that progressive about it. And they want to continue. I don't know why they're so sickened by the few of us that they think are talking about it, because I don't care what they're talking about. But that's what it really is. They just don't want to hear it anymore. They don't really like it. And they keep trying to make it a bigger issue than it is. That it's something that is like tearing apart. The Democrats are tearing apart the left. And I just want to remind us of this. Defund the police started in 2020, right? Their whole argument is it costs Democrats. Oh, defunding the police. Hey, Biden win? Did Joe Biden not win? What Democratic, what established Democratic politicians do we know that even ran on defund the police, let alone lost? What incumbents do we know that are out of here because of defund the police? What did defunding the police do to them? I just wish they would give us the substantive issue, what happened.
Yeah, and that was also what annoyed me in the recent coverage we were talking about from TYT, is they blamed they blamed defund the police for Ilhan Omar almost losing her reelection, even though she didn't. Nowhere on her website, on her platform, was there a mention of defund the police. It's not even something she was running on. So they're literally just like resorting to MSNBC style talking points to blame every Democrat's loss or, almost lost on a slogan that they don't even support or stand for. So I mean, Ilhan Omar is definitely better than your average Democrat, but even she's not out here saying defund the police.
Right. I'm actually going to be on TYT tonight, actually.
Really?
I'm going to be on tonight at 6:30 talking about abolition.
Well, fuck yeah. Clamoring for this over here.
Yeah, yes. I think that's what happened. Yes.
Are you going to be talking to Anna and Cenk or someone else?
I believe Anna and Cenk. Yeah, that's my understanding.
What? That's crazy. I'm so excited to watch that. And honestly, as much shit as we've thrown their way, props to them for actually, extending the hand to have that conversation, to have that dialogue. It's something we've been advocating for a long time. Like, instead of, in my opinion, straw manning the abolitionist position,
just
talk to a good faith person that's in that camp, like yourself. And I think that's going to be a wonderfully productive conversation.
I think so. I plan to approach it very positively. Listen, I'm not a person that expects abolition to I don't expect you to hear it and be like, ooh, immediately. It's a process. It's a process. That's what I think. It's a lot of us have a role of information sharing and allowing people, just giving people the information that they could take from it what they want. They could question things. Like whenever I write anything, I argue anything, my mommy and my best friend Mark, who are both people who 9 times out of 10 they think I'm crazy and jumping out the window, okay? But they both will say to me, you know what? That actually made me think about something. Or I was thinking about that. Or later on they'll see something and my mommy will be like, shit, I see what you were talking about, Olayemi. That's the role I take from it. It's like, I don't expect them or anyone else to walk away tonight when I talk to them about abolition, be like, all right, that's it. You got me. I'm abolitionist tomorrow. But I expect the idea to start to make a little bit more sense to you. Hopefully it doesn't sound as radical as it did the minute you first heard it. And maybe we could start a journey of like, at least just being more open to hearing these sides. Because at the end of the day, I think we're all on the same side of things. We're all on the same team for the general part. I think it's a waste of energy to me personally to get into fights and spats with people, because not for nothing, I don't agree with everything that's ever come out of, like, all the things that have ever come out of my own mouth. I could read pieces for myself. I'm like, that's what you thought? You sure? Like, okay, I once wrote a piece in college about how the media should not affect your self-esteem at all. What an absurd position, right? So I understand that we're not all gonna agree. It doesn't, I think sometimes we get too bogged down in a purity politics of like, this is what I think makes us, you know what I mean? This is what makes you good and a true life. I don't really give a fuck. Do we ultimately?
We never do that here at the Vanguard. We never do that here at the Vanguard. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think that has to be the approach though, right? Because I think of myself, right? Like, I've told this story on the show before, but like, when I was 2016, like flag waving Bernie Sanders supporter all the way, 18-year-old Zach, my sister, who, was more like academic than me, she was doing a research on the school to prison pipeline. And she's like, starts telling me about like prison abolition and all this kind of stuff. And I thought she was fucking crazy. And here I am being like Medicare, but she was like, no, read Angela Davis, like read these couple of books. And like over time, you're like, oh yeah, this whole thing is so fucked up. Why do we tolerate this? Right. Yes. So it's like bearing with people for that time, because you're right. It's indoctrination. It is straight up like, even if your heart is in the right place, even if you recognize like, we'd already like the state of Missouri had already gone through like all the Ferguson protests. Like people were, we all thought we'd like woken up to the police brutality. But even then I was like, abolition, like where are we going to put Charles Carthy? Where are we going to put the Weinsteins? Where are we going to put the like crazies kind of like people? So I think that you have the perfect approach. And while Gavin and I, we might like to, torch some people that get on the wrong side of our arguments, I think it's great that you're able to go in there and actually, be the rational, level-headed, voice for a position that these people need to adopt.
Yeah, I think, I think sometimes we forget is that people work with the tools that they're given. And if you give someone like an assignment and you say, you have to use all these pieces, they try to figure out, how can I make it work from this? And it never really occurs to us that prison doesn't have to be a piece. You know what I mean? We work with, like, the criminal system does not have to be something that's a part of our society. These are man-made institutions that we've created, and they do this, they do that, and what their actual agendas are behind them. So for me, it's like, all right, let's take it back. Let me try to approach it from where I first heard of it, because not for nothing, I have been, blackity black on the criminal system is racist and discriminating against Black people for a long time now, my whole adult life. And even when my thesis advisors who hit me to abolition, not even just because she was trying to make me an abolitionist, just because what I was saying to her was like, she was like, you sound like somebody who might like some abolition. And when she said that to me, I was like, you mean abolish all the prisons? Like, ooh. I'm like, what are you talking about, crazy lady? And then she gave me a book. I started reading, and I couldn't tell you when I became an abolitionist, but that's how it is we continue to learn and unlearn things, and it's a journey and it's a process, and I don't expect it to be new. What I do want us to not do is scream about it, like antagonize our own side, get online and like, make us, the reason Republicans do so well is because if I'm honest, it's because Republicans are very galvanized around white identity politics, and they will rise to white identity politics even where it doesn't benefit them in class and all these different things. There's so much that the left pushes for that would benefit so many Republicans and poor white people and yada yada, but they're successfully galvanized around that point. But to say that is, they unify. They don't really do much. That point is stupid. That one's this. I don't like that you're doing that. If that were the case, I mean, let's think about logic. They're bitching and moaning about defund the police, right? But just the other day, Roe versus Wade was overturned, and every Republican and their mama insisted it's because the states' rights, the states, we want to return it to the states. And then they introduced the federal ban, and you didn't hear not one Republican commentator come on and be like, what? This doesn't make any sense. This is absurd. They won't support. They don't. They do not do that to their own side. So like, we need to stop doing that. Like, stop painting out the far left, by the way. And it's just also, can we stop pretending like left means I support student loans and medical care? That's what all being left means. And the rest of anybody else with any kind of initiative or policy is the far left. They're the radicals. They're the extremists. The things we're advocating for in the rest of the world, where everyone's not, living in a prison industrial complex and a police state, it's pretty modest. It's pretty modest. In my country, we don't just have like a strong, vast amount of people from the population sitting in jail. It's not normal. The things, if anything, what's extremist, it's the current police state we live in. That is what's extreme. So
100%. Couldn't agree. I mean, yeah, and I think that the thing that the left needs to do a better job on is that instead of, re-articulating that this isn't even a radical left point, this is the baseline point, so just flat out like, oh, you're like, it's not right wing or left-wing talking points that we're having a discussion about right here. It is like baseline society. Do you want to live in a prison state? Do you want to live in a police state or not? You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's why I wanted to remind people, I want to emphasize the fact that the bail reform in Chicago happened in Jersey under Republican Governor Christie without a hitch. And he eliminated, and it was actually the one in Chicago, the one in being introduced even in like a New York, but or Chicago, these are all way more modest. They eliminated cash bail in its entirety in Jersey. There is no cash bail in Jersey. So that's important. While they're making this out to be leftist radical extremism, this is actually just very common sense policy. And I also want to point this out. They're quick to use these in places where the populations, or maybe the prison systems, aren't as black as they are, aren't as brown as they are. They go up there, they get these bail reforms in, without a problem, without a hitch. And then when you get them in big cities where they have an overwhelming majority of black people incarcerated, like in Cook County, like in Rikers, and all of a sudden it's this obviously just invoking this racist imagery and language of, feel unsafe white people. The black people are all gonna get out and go commit crime and run amok. That's what they're arguing. And I also, my last and final point on this particular topic of this is, where are these places that they think be hot up to just do what the leftist radicals want, right? Let's pretend like I want the purge and anarchy, and let's say that's what I wanted. Who do you know that listens to me, that implements where do we have that kind of political power that in Chicago, one of the places that puts the most money into incarcerating people, into policing people, one of the worst, most racist police department histories in the country, you think they were like, yeah, free for all. Let's do it. Lori Lightfoot, they think Lori Lightfoot and them was with it? Really? That's the kind of power they think we have?
Yeah, that's crazy. And like I said, super excited to watch that conversation go down. I think you're just the most perfect pick to kind of represent the abolitionist position. And it's definitely a much needed conversation, because like you said, it's the right wing which is cooking up these smears about the purge legislation.
Right.
But again, it's not just the right wing. There are people even on the left
Absolutely.
that are kind of using these straw mans when they talk about the pro-abolitionist position, like, oh, you just want to let criminals out and like run wild in the streets. It's like, it's such a reductionist straw man, and I'm sick of it. So really, really excited to see that conversation. Assuming we're done on that topic, there is another story that broke this morning that I'd like to get your reaction to, Olayemi, if you have the time, or if you have anything to say. Cool. So this happened, I believe this was literally this morning when this came out. Joe Biden has some, controversial new words about the state of the pandemic and coronavirus. So let's take a quick listen to this, and then we can get your reaction.
Mr. President, first Detroit Auto Show in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. You notice no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
Mr. President, first Detroit Auto.
Yeah, so as he said, the pandemic is over. I have a somewhat mixed feelings about this, because it is true that I think in the eyes of your average American, like where Zach and I live in Kansas City, I think unfortunately it is fair to say that that's how they're, kind of treating the situation. But it's also just false. If you look at the numbers, hundreds of people are still dying every week from COVID-19. So what did you make of all this?
Okay, okay. Let me be common. Let me be commonsensically fair while acknowledging my own shortcomings. I am no longer being as responsible as I should be about that. Let me just put that out there. Just so don't nobody see me on the street, see me without a mask, take a picture, call me out on Twitter. I told you I wasn't being responsible like I'm supposed to be. That being said, me and my friend, I want to say last month, he was saying the same thing. We were on the phone. He was like, oh, COVID's over. I was like, okay, Mark, we're acting like this, but it's not actually over. Like, it's not over. People still he's like, it's over. His ass got COVID the next day, and he was down bad for about a week. I just want to say this. It's kind of, if pandemic means, the outbreak, the widespread outbreak of an illness or a disease around the world, and we still have that. We still have that, bro. You can't say the pandemic is over. We're still dealing with COVID. And then moments later, you're like, oh, people look around you. It's over. People aren't wearing their masks. Maybe that's why we're still dealing with COVID. You see the issues? You said, ooh, the pandemic is over. Then you said, ooh, but we still got pandemic problems. Ooh, but no one's acting like there's a pandemic. Ooh, but then we still got so maybe, I'm gonna just throw this out there. Maybe the pandemic isn't over, but because we keep behaving like it's over, That's why it isn't over. Ooh, hot take. Like that's what I think.
Well, what do you think is the like correct approach in a public safety measure? Because recently we've seen, I think it was the subways in New York City that put up these signs that got memed a lot, where it was like, it's okay to wear a mask, but it's also okay to not wear a mask. It's your choice. It's up to you. What do you think is the right approach? Because let's be honest, on one hand, people aren't going to keep fucking wearing masks forever. Like we can't keep people wearing them forever, as much as that would be the like most scientifically, ideal or medically ideal scenario. I mean, I still try to wear a mask, although like you said, I also find myself slipping up more and more these days and just, completely disregarding any sort of precautions. So what do you think the right policy would be?
Honestly, to me, if you look at the government as people that are supposed to protect you and supposed to make the responsible choices, or if you think of even like if you think of parents, it's very paternalistic, but you're not supposed to be so concerned about what the child thinks and want to do and run wild and do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, me and you, Gavin, we're not we are not the president. We are not the people in charge, because the reality is, even though we're this, and we might even represent a majority of people that don't feel as, worried or concerned about the illness, or because we aren't as exposed to long-term ramifications or whatever it is. But there is still a significant amount of people that's not the reality for, that this is still daytime reality for them, that are suffering, that have lost a bunch of people, that are still very at risk of serious illness should they. And I feel like the president and the government has a responsibility to act from the interest of the person most likely to be hurt. So if there are still people, and there's still thousands, if not probably millions of people that could still be harmed in a serious way, I think they have a responsibility to still, at the very minimum, have protocol or language that speaks to that. I'm not saying they need to go around the place and have like mandatory mask mandates, or it needs to be what it was before, because quite frankly, I just don't feel like our current political landscape and the problems that we have right now allow for us to get lost back into Republicans and their stupid war they're going to make around, health precautions. But I think they should at least still be invoking that kind of language that's sensitive and considerate to those people, because the reality is people feel a lot freer to do things when the government and powers that be, enable them. So if there are still people that really need us to wear masks, it's people that need us to do these things. So if our government it's over, people are like, well, the government says it's over, fuck it. So I think we should be more considerate.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in Kentucky this weekend, right? So red state. I saw 2 Charles Booker signs and not a single mask the entire time that I was there. I was at the Bourbon Festival, and cards on the table, guys. I work at a bar. I'm not a mask wearer that much. I fuck off. If somebody tells me, hey, put on your mask, I will. But like that's the extent of what I do. Tisk tisk. I'm a fucking Midwesterner. I don't know. But it was, it wasn't even until just now that I thought about what that represented for the pandemic. When I was, at a festival, there were maybe 10, 12,000 people. It was outside. Nobody wore a single mask. People drinking bourbon. It was a bourbon festival, right? Acts were playing Alanis Morissette. That was crazy good. Anyway, there were a lot of people there just vibing. Not a single mask. I'm actually straining in my brain to think if I saw a single person in a mask.
See that?
And
COVID
it's just like
working in the grounds. COVID right there to working with y'all. You see that?
But yeah, I've never gotten COVID a single time. I don't know if it's just
me either. I'm no different.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
all three of us.
I felt I'm not going to work before I end up just like my friend.
I think that there's no way to expect that people are going to continue to just kind of do this of their own volition. Like we all have like these like big dreams or whatever illusions that like, the American way of life is just so fickle that after 1 year of spending inside, everything's going to change. You're never going to shake hands again. You're never going to hug anybody. Everybody's going to wear a mask everywhere they go. Blah, blah. Nothing changed. Right. We all were like, the gates were open and we all fled back to our like, way of life. And like in some ways that's like comforting, and in other ways it's like, well, damn, we didn't learn a goddamn thing.
Right. I mean, well, honestly, if you look at how America, not to drag America, but if you look at how America responded to it during the time where any reasonable person should have been shook, should have wanted you, like the time period when we all should have wanted masks and stuff because we're so worried we don't know anything about this. Even then, America was like, fuck these people. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like, I don't care. Oh, your old Grammy gonna die? Fine by me. Like that is how America. Like I think the pandemic taught us a whole lot about the average American is feeling towards their neighbor. It's not very a love thy neighbor type of country. Everybody had a wee bit better. And you know how I knew it too? Because I thought Bahamians were defiant people who are only on our run. I thought I was gonna have to convince my mama and them to get I got on the phone ready, like for the worst actors in my family. Like give me the worst. And they were like, no, we all got it. And I was like, Americans, I was like, I was like, they gotta send the flood. Like it's time to take you off the game. I'm like, no. If Bahamians if Caribbean people as superstitious as we are, were like, let me go get the vaccine, and America was like, no, who did it? Who fucking no mask? My body, my choice. Suddenly, lunacy. Okay, so I think that is a reflection of y'all maybe y'all don't love your American people as much as y'all say y'all do. Like,
oh, for sure, 100%. I think that's 100% accurate. One last thing I wanted to talk about with you, Olayemi, is we talked a little bit about criminal justice today, a little bit about the police, but one kind of police we haven't yet talked about is the tone police. And recently, the tone police came for you for disrespecting Her Majesty the Queen.
Did they? It's so funny. It's so funny. I feel like. What's so hilarious? I feel like a lot of people probably don't like me and have something to say like on a daily basis in a large way about the shit I be saying. But the way I don't even read I don't even know. I'm like, oh, were they mad? I'm like, oh, are you mad? Because honestly, fuck the Queen was me keeping it really cute. I really am like, y'all are an ungrateful bunch. If fuck the Queen upset you, if you could be in the deepest recesses of my mind and what I got to say, you would get me out of there. Okay, so I thought I was keeping it very cute. I did not know that was a controversial opinion. I'm like, oh, did you expect me to mourn the colonizers? Is that what you wanted? Like, if anything, it's far absurd. All these, well, it's just the Queen and the Queen. All these celebrities just talking mess, talking about, oh, thank the Queen for her contribution to humanity. I'm like, what? Well, I'm confused. You don't when I want to talk about colonization. No. Now don't talk about that. But then you're thinking of her contribution. Well, what's the contribution? Because y'all, according to y'all, she is a symbolic figurehead that don't do shit today. So if you're celebrating something and you're thinking a contribution, I would assume it is something in the past. Because according to you, she don't do nothing today. So what happened in the past? Dare we talk about it? What was the past like? What did she do in the past? Like, what did the people do? What are we celebrating? It's actually it's wild to watch the whole world be filled with a bunch of sheep. You know what I mean? It's really wild. I'm like, I get it. I understand. I'm going to give my people grace. I mean, like by my people, I mean all the Black people that are infatuated with colonizers, because that's how it works, right? They indoctrinate you, all your media. Think about how many times, how many movies, how many shows you've been inundated with like Queen, the royals, the this, the yada yada yada. So I get it, and I give people that. That being said, people like it's absurd. And also, hold on, let me get my last, because I didn't say this. They're not gonna like this. So if they was mad before, they're gonna be really mad. She's 100, bro. Like she died. Like she was supposed to die. Like I said, goes down. Like she didn't. This was like not a premature death. What is the mourning about? I'm so lost. She lived 100 years. Do you know what it is to get away with being the head of a gang? Like a gang the whole world know about. It's in the history books. We all know you're a gang, and you live peacefully 100 years, and people are like, oh no, God save the Queen. What are you talking about? God don't save the average person past 50. What are you saying to me? The average Black man dies at like 59, and I'm supposed to be mourning? Old girl, and not it was a youthful 96. You're right. I gotta put some respect on her. She had a little time on her, okay? But it's just ridiculous. I'm like, what are we sad about? This woman has lived for a long time. She was here with the Ice Age. Come on, relax. Like,
also, you made such a great point too. Like, what even is there to memorialize? Like, what did she do? Like, you talk about other, whatever you want to call them, heroes of American history, very problematic people like the founding fathers, for example.
Right.
I'm not the kind of person that goes around idolizing these people. They were obviously slave owners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at least they actually like did something. Like they won the war against the revolutionary, whatever. What did the fucking Queen do? Literally, she just vacuumed up taxpayer money for 96 years, lived in luxury without a day of stress, and then died. And good job.
Honestly, people really have to find something else to do with their time here on the earth. Because honestly, there's way too many Beyoncés and Meg Thee Stallions for you to be tripping about the Queen. Like, I'm lost. The Queen don't dance. She don't sing. She don't write no books. She don't what did the Queen do? What does the Queen do? The Queen don't give you no drip. I'm confused. She don't got no iconic sayings. What? Yeah, like
he was too busy starving the entire subcontinent of India.
I'm saying, imagine you done steal all the jewels from all the countries and you still ain't got no drip. That's crazy. Like that's absurd.
You don't like
So,
that little thing she carries around, the little
no.
banister with
Hello.
jewels on? Anyway, I was a big fan of your tweets, Olayemi.
Thank-
So
thank you,
you
Noah.
have 2 fans here at the Vanguard at least. You have a lot more, but anyway, I think everyone in our chat absolutely loved this conversation too. Got so many enthusiastic reactions. So thank you so much for coming on today, Olayemi. This
Thank
50
you,
minutes
y'all.
flew by. Love the new piece. Everyone, make sure to go check it out. It's on. We retweeted it on Twitter. You can check it out at Olayemi's page as well. But yeah, anything else you wanted to plug or let people know about before we peace out?
Just catch me on the Young Turks tonight at 6:30, and hopefully it is great and peaceful.
I do have one more quick question for you. Any plans to be back on the on Hills Rising anytime soon?
No, I not currently as it stands. Like I've talked to the Hill people or whatever, they're great, but I don't currently have anything scheduled right now to be on the Hill. That's what I could tell you.
Boo! We need you back.
Tell them, let them know.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, the Hill execs have heard from the Vanguard.
Bye, y'all.
See ya. Yeah, that was awesome. Love Olayemi. Conversation went by super quick. Holy shit! Just a great conversationalist. Super funny. Super insightful.
Yeah, dude, they need to get her back on Rising. She was one of my favorite. I didn't know who she was really. I think I'd heard her on Bad Faith one time before I saw her on Rising. Then I was like, oh, bam, this is like a bolt of what we need on the left for discourse. So yeah, always great to have her. Super grateful that she takes the time out of her busy schedule, because we all forget, like, we didn't even talk about it. This woman's a full-time lawyer. She's a public defender. She's getting people out of jail, right? Like. I remember she was tweeting, I don't know if this is still the case, like she was like, all of my clients, like I don't have a single client in jail right now. As a public defender, dude, that's so fucking based. So anyway, she's actually doing all kinds of insane, crazy, great work on top of her commentary, on top of her, advocacy. So just all around awesome, spectacular guest here at the Vanguard, though. Yeah, great show.
Yeah, we really appreciate her taking the time to stop by this morning for her second ever appearance on the show. Again, great conversation. She's always welcome. And like I said, make sure to check out that article too. We do have a couple super chats to address real quick before we get out of here. Thank you so much, Hysteric Raider, for the $2. This talk needs to be on TYT and see them go nuts. That's hilarious, because about 5 minutes after you sent that super chat in, Hysteric Raider, Olayemi announced she is in fact going on TYT, and we'll have to see how they react tonight. We'll definitely be reacting to that on the show tomorrow afternoon. So stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. You manifested that, Hysteric Raider. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Hysteric Raider. Thank you also, Observer, for the $5 here in Portland. A black civil rights leader and member of city council is having the local black bourgeoisie weaponized against them. Wow. I mean, I'd be interested in hearing some more details about that. It looks like you might have added some. I'm assuming this is on the same subject matter. Joanne Hardesty here in PDX is being slammed for taking the side of poor people against richer black homeowners. Interesting. I'll have to look more into that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for the note, Observer, and we really appreciate the donation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Observer. Really appreciate that. And thanks for the comment earlier, too. I think Olayemi really enjoyed reacting to your question. And thank you, Hysteric Raider. I renounce and retract my previous super chat. Like Zach said, you manifested it, Hysteric Raider. Good for you.
Retracted. We need it to come through.
Exactly. And thank you, AV. Really appreciate the $5 super sticker. Thank you also, once again, Observer. It's actually pretty cheap to lock up just 1% of the population, then extend universal social goods to 100%. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, actually, is that, for some people, unfortunately, because of the lack of social goods, because of the lack of universal health care, and because food and housing, for example, is not a human right, unfortunately, for some people that are the most desperate among us, the most impoverished and disenfranchised of society, it's actually better off for them to be in prison, because they do have food, they do have shelter, they do have a doctor if they need to see one, at least more so than they would outside of prison. So that's the really, terrible and depressing reality of the situation, that for some people, it's actually in their best interest to go to prison. So, I mean, not like, just because they don't have those services outside of it. So that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, Gavin and Anna are finally on the same page. Send all the homeless to prison. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, yeah, what a devastating fucking indictment on our society, right? Is what I think Gavin's pointed out, that the fact that you literally have more services provided to you inside prison, one of the most cruel, animalistic, fucking barbaric, Machiavelli, just dehumanizing institutions to exist. They will still make sure that, you know, for the most part, some prisons are really fucking bad. The private prisons that with the cold and, but for the most part, they'll make sure you don't actually freeze to death. Sometimes they fail at even that, fucking shockingly. But anyway, yeah. Way cheaper than having 25% of your fucking country locked up would be to have like the goal would be to have like strive for net zero, but yeah, 1%, and then everybody, you know, given the resources to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Thank you so much, Observer. And thank you also so much, Access Audio, for the $4.99. I'll still be doing my 400, what is that? 400 meter?
Oh, yeah, I think he's going to go around a track.
Oh, meter.
One lap around a track.
That makes sense. I was like, wait, I was picturing like a weight lift or something. No, that makes sense. Sorry, if you can't tell, I don't work out all that much. But with my 135 pounds in my K in 95 mask in the Florida heat, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic. Are you actually planning on doing that? If so, I mean, good for you. But God, I can't imagine wearing a mask while doing any sort of like intense physical labor. Even when I just used to work at the pizza shop down the street. During the very early stages of the pandemic, it got kind of hot in there, and I remember just being fucking in misery wearing my little shitty mask at the time. So if you're not being sarcastic, then I can't imagine that. But you know, good for you.
Access Audio's flexing hard right here if this is your actual workout, dude. Because as I understand it, what your intention is to do is to take 135-pound dumbbells, which maybe you're talking like 70 or 68-pound. I don't fucking know. If you're using, this has to be a lie. 135 dumbbells and do lunges all the way. I mean, if you're way more stacked than I am, this could be something that you literally do. But I ran track like 10 years ago, and the running around that asphalt fucking shit in the middle of the fucking summer sun with the sticky Florida heat. Like, I won't even go outside on a day like today in Kansas City. It's supposed to be 99 degrees in Kansas City today. Gavin and I don't know about him, but I'm not going to be pissed when I have to go outside to smoke. Like, I'm going to be fucking irritated.
Oh, same, bro. It drives me crazy. Luckily, here in Kansas City, at least, it does look like it's gonna the temperature is gonna go down massively later in the week around Thursday. So really excited for that. But yeah, thank you so much, Access Audio. Thank you also, Cup of Joy, for the $10. We really appreciate that, Cup of Joy. As one of your older listeners, I love this woman. More, please. Well, thank you so much for the $10. Thanks for the kind comment. I'm sure Olayemi would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for sticking around, Cup of Joy. Really great to hear from some of our older listeners, as you say. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, obviously, we're always shocked that you guys give a shit about our takes on it. And it's always great to have a diverse and eclectic audience. We're really proud of it. And so any of our shots at the boomers are directed with exclusivity to people with Joe Biden style liberal politics. But yeah, thank you so much for the $10. That surely brings a cup of joy to me and Gavin.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you also, Comrade. Will you guys be reacting to Olayemi's appearance on TYT in a future stream? Abso-freaking-lutely. You know it, Comrade. Probably tomorrow afternoon, if not tonight, but 100%.
Yeah, dude. 100%. Will you be reacting to? Oh,
yeah. Yeah, but 100%. I'm super excited to react. It's going to be a great conversation. And like we were saying, we've given TYT so much shit. Especially for their commentary on the abolition and stuff like that. But I mean, we got to give them props, right? We have been advocating. They have this conversation. It looks like they took our advice and many other people's advice. So, I guess shout out to them for inviting on Olayemi, who's definitely one of the best spokespeople possible for the abolitionist viewpoint.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that about wraps the show today. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on story-wise, Gavin?
Oh, not really. I mean, I thought we had a great conversation with Olayemi. Thought it was an awesome podcast in general. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in today. Zach and I took a couple days off, so it's great to be back in the saddle. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps us with the algorithm. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And a little bit of an announcement. Zach and I have decided to start making some more content for our other channel, Screen Fiends, which we're about to go live on in just 15 minutes or so. So if you guys enjoy the content that we do here, and you're also into pop culture, entertainment, specifically film and television, and you'd like to hear Zach and I talk about that stuff, then hit up the link in the description and head on over to our other channel, Screen Fiends, for the live stream that, like I said, is about to start in about 15 minutes. We've been asked quite a few times by people if we're ever going to revive Screen Fiends. And yeah, Zach and I are both kind of feeling in the mood lately. We always get back into movie going around this time of year for whatever reason. Probably has something to do with Halloween season and our love of horror films. But either way, got some enthusiasm back in the project, and we were going to just make an announcement. In case anyone's not familiar, we do have that second channel, and we're about to go live over there. So make sure to head on over and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, if you fiend for the screens, if you like smoking green, and if you have a lot of movie news needs, follow us over to our new channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Head on over there, guys. Make sure to subscribe. We're going to be putting out a lot more content in the near future. So hit that up, and appreciate everyone for tuning in. As Tutoring said, slap that like button. And absolutely, thank you for tuning in. And also a quick shout out to the Patreon community. We do like to end all of our live streams, start and end of all of our live streams with a big shout out to the patrons. So thank you guys so much for the support. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in joining the Patreon community and supporting us and the work we produce, then hit up the link in the description. That's going to be patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. And like I said, we would not be able to do this show without you guys and without your support, as we are 100% viewer funded. We don't hawk any bullshit sponsorships on the show. Obviously, we don't take any corporate money or anything like that. So yeah, we rely on your guys' donations, and we would not be able to do the show without you guys. So please consider donating if you have the means to and you enjoy our content. If not, no biggie. Just hit that like button. It's totally free.
Although if the State Department's listening, Gavin and I, we're not unwilling to negotiate.
Yeah, hit us up, CIA. Hit us up, CIA. Or the Kremlin. Hit us up, the Kremlin. We'll also take your money.
Yeah, we'll suck from any teat that offers us a living. I'm kidding, of course, but you guys have a good one.
We'll take some money from the CIA, some from the Kremlin. We'll mix it up for you guys now. But just kidding, everyone. Make sure to hit up that link in the description if you enjoy the content and want to support us. And again, just thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate you all. Love seeing you guys talk in chat, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah. We'll see you guys in about 15 minutes over on the Screen Fiends channel. Hit it up. Peace out, guys.
Bye.